Hey everybody, how's it going? My Vintage Iron here. Well, today we're gonna I want to talk about something that was brought home to me very recently in a big way. We've always had this in the auto industry. We've had this rivalry where we have Ford versus Chevy, or Chrysler versus Ford, or whatever. There's people that are loyal to specific brands of vehicles, and I had a couple of friends in the shop the other day, and you notice we're inside in the office today because it's 120 degrees outside in the shop. So we'll do some inside stuff during the summer. It's part of the curse of living in the great Southwest, is you have to deal with very hot summers. So anyway, these two friends of mine were there, and one of these guys happens to be a real diehard Chevrolet fan, and the other one is of course, he's a Ford guy. And they don't really work in the automotive industry, either one of them. They are simply just a couple of guys that, really like their Ford and their Chevy. And they got into a discussion, started out to be a civil discussion at first. Eventually, these two guys almost came to blows over, which car which brand was better, Ford or Chevy. So you always hear the Chevy guys, "Oh, Chevy's rock, man. Everything else, Ford sucks." Well, you got the Ford guys, and they're always taking cheap shots at the Chevy guys. Ford rules, Chevrolet suck, or I'm a Mopar guy. I love Chryslers, so everything else sucks. Realistically, what you really need to understand is, if you're going to get into a rivalry about these brands, anybody who's in the industry, who's been around and worked at dealerships or worked at independent shops, been a technician in the field for a decent amount of time, the way that we view rivalries like that is we look at the people that are basically get into these rivalries are amateurs, because for the most part, once you're in the field, you're a technician and you're in the field for so many years, these cars all start to look the same to you. Now, that's not to say that they're all the same. They all have their good points and their bad points, but the fact of the matter is that as a technician, especially if you work in an independent shop where you see Ford one day and a Chevy the next day, and then a Nissan, and you may work on a Range Rover, you're working on a dump truck, you work on diesel, you work on gas, you work on pretty much everything. The rivalry for brands actually begins to fade away very, very quickly as you become a professional in this industry. And that is, you get a bit cynical, if you want to say, because it's kind of like a police officer. Police officers, some of them have kind of a cynical attitude toward people, but you got to realize the reason that they are a lot of times jaded, if you will, is because they deal with lowlifes and the scum of the earth all day long, and so they begin to view people with this jaded eye. It hardens them, if you will. And being an automotive technician actually will harden you, so to speak, against any particular brand, because you may be a Ford fan, you may be a Chevy fan, whatever the case may be. Once you work on these vehicles for years, what you're going to find out is you're going to be jaded. You're going to look at that Ford that you loved, or you're going to look at that Chevy that you love, and you're going to think, yeah, you know what? It's broken. It doesn't matter what it is. When it comes into my bay or it comes into my shop, it's broken, and I got to fix it. The reality is, and I've built a lot of Ford and Chevy engines. The reality is there's really not all that much difference between a Ford and a Chevy. There are some differences, but take the small block Chevy, for example, and the small block Ford, for example, the earlier 302, 351 Windsor, what have you. They're very similar. The Chevy and the Ford engines, they're very, very similar engines. They both have the same bore size. The 351W and the 350 Chevy have almost the identical stroke. So the bore and the stroke combination is identical. The heads have a little bit different configuration. Distributors in the front on one and the back on another, but you know, it doesn't really matter. None of that stuff really matters. It'll work in either position. And so one of the things that you need to realize is if you're a die-hard, you know, Ford fan or Chevy fan, and you get in, you know, you make yourself part of this rivalry. Those of us who are in the industry and have been for, you know, a significant amount of time, we're going to look at you, and in our minds, we may not tell you this, but in our minds, we're going to look at you and we're going to go, okay, here's somebody who has no idea what they're doing, no idea what they're talking about. That's basically what most experienced technicians are going to think if you get caught up in this silly little rivalry. Do Fords suck? I don't know. Do Chevys suck? I don't know. Yeah, I've worked on some that do. I've also driven and worked on both brands that ran very good. So the fact of the matter is that the brand doesn't matter. The brand doesn't matter. I've had people tell me, oh, you know, I would never want to work at a Hyundai dealership because those cars suck. Well, number one, they don't suck, and number two, if you do work for a dealership that makes lower end cars, that's job security, man. You're going to have a lot of stuff to work on because you're going to have a lot of broken cars. That's the way you got to look at it. It's all about the money. It's not about the brand. So, you know, I just thought I'd throw that out there. That's my perspective on the Ford and the Chevy and the Chrysler rivalry. And then you'll get the Honda guys who love their Hondas and everything else is garbage. And you know what? That's just inexperience. You go around spouting off or posting things about how great your particular brand is and everything else sucks. Those of us in the industry who have some experience and some knowledge are going to look at you as if you're an amateur. We really are. And actually, a lot of times, that's how I judge when I deal with people. I work in the industry, so I deal with people, with parts people, with repair people. I deal with all kinds of people all the time in this industry. And you can tell who has experience if they have the attitude of, Ford, Chevy, yeah, they're all the same. Don't matter. I'm a little bit of a, I don't know, I'm a different sort of person in that I like, there's some Fords out there that I really like. There's also some Chevys out there that I really like. I'm a big Chrysler fan. I love Chrysler Hemis. I have a truck with a Hemi in it, and it's great. I love it. But on the other hand, you know, I wouldn't mind having a new Mustang with a 5.0, direct injection, 4 valve per cylinder, dual overhead cam, variable cam timing, yada, 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 yada. I'd love to have one of those Mustangs, man. Those cars are cool. Corvette. Pretty hard to criticize the Corvette. So, you know, they all have their ups and downs, their idiosyncrasies, but at the end of the day, if you really stop and think about it, and once you get into the field and you start, you know, getting a feel for these vehicles, they all have problems. They all have things that go wrong with them, and they all have, you know, their high points. So my advice to you, if you are looking to get into the automotive industry, or you are in the automotive industry and you are engaging in this fierce rivalry. I mean, I thought these guys, these two friends of mine, I thought they were going to start duking it out in the shop. You know, and I'm like, guys, come on, man. It's a car. It's a mechanical device. It's a machine. My gosh. You know, just calm down. My advice to you is don't get into that rivalry. And if you have the mindset of, well, you know, my brand is the best and everything else sucks, well, you're inexperienced. You really are somebody who I can tell you right now, you're not an experienced technician. Because experienced technicians they're not going to have that position, at least not very many of them. And so keep that in mind. If you're going into a professional atmosphere, you're going into a shop atmosphere, you're going into an environment where there's experienced technicians, you might want to kind of not bring that up. The best thing you can do if you want to make an impression, if you're getting into a shop, so forth, just say, you know what, cars are all the same. It's a car. Car is a car. I can fix it, or I can attempt to fix it. Ford, Chevy, Dodge, whatever. It's a mechanical device. It's a machine. Something that's interesting to note, and this is what some of you Ford owners and Chevy owners and Honda owners and things like that should know. Let's say hypothetically you love Hondas, okay? And there's nothing wrong with Hondas. Hondas are great cars. You're driving down the road and you're looking at all these other cars and you go, yeah, I got a Honda. Those cars all suck. This is a Honda. So your motor's up in front, and it's running, and the pistons are going up and down, and the crank's going around. You know that your motor that's in your Honda, it doesn't know it's a Honda. It's not rolling down the road with its pistons going up and down and looking around looking at other cars and going, huh, I'm a Honda. Okay, it's got a crankshaft, it's got connecting rods, it's got pistons, it's got a cylinder head, it's an internal combustion engine. They all work about the same. Once you've built thousands of them like I've had, you'll realize, these are all pretty much the same. Your Chevrolet, it doesn't know it's a Chevy. The owner's up there, oh, this is a Chevy, it's the greatest thing ever. Your truck doesn't know it's a Chevy. It has no idea. So keep that in mind. It's pretty much the same as everything else on the road. Personal preference, what body styles you like over other body styles, that's fine, drive whatever you want. But in reality, the later model cars today, there's not many of them that really suck. There's a few, but those are real low-cost cars, and they're, the quality of the vehicles today, and then you got the imports coming into the mix too. I mean, you really can't say too many bad things about imports. I mean, Nissan, Honda, Mitsubishi, Mazda, I mean, those are great vehicles. They're good quality vehicles for the most part. And so, yeah, if you want to make an impression on somebody in the automotive field, put all that nonsense aside. So hopefully that's some advice that'll hopefully help you in the future. There's a famous comedian, his name's Brian Regan, I really like him. One of his famous statements is, you know what, I'm just trying to get through the day without looking like an idiot. Sometimes that's how you have to approach life. Okay, so until next time, thanks. Oh, be sure to subscribe if you get the opportunity. Also, you can look me up on Facebook at MyVintageIron7512. Like me on Facebook. And hopefully, I'll talk to you soon.